We are going to make our own pretend fossil. And you can do this with real things. I'm going to use a little piece of a tree, an evergreen tree. You could use a leaf, pine cones, seeds. You could use little toy animals. I've got some dinosaurs here. That would be fun. And you could just put it in whichever direction you want to. I would do it sideways to get a real picture what the fossil shape would look like. But we're going to do this leaf. And I'm just going to mash it in there because I want to get the shape down in the Play-Doh. Hopefully this will work. Doesn't want to mash down in there. Now I'm going to pick it up and it's going to leave the... I don't know if you can see that real well in there. It might be better, it might be more obvious to use a toy. Now we're going to mix up some plaster of Paris, and actually I forgot, we need to make a collar, because when we pour the plaster of Paris in there to make the mold, the shape of it, we don't want it to just go everywhere. So we're going to make a collar out of a piece of heavy paper, and I need it smaller because I don't want the plaster to go out on the plate. I want it to just get the thing that I'm trying to make the shape of. I think that's about right. And then I'm going to tape the ends together. It doesn't need to be fancy. We just want to keep that plaster of Paris from going all over the place. We want to keep it where we want it. And then I'm just going to, I'm even going to mash that down in a little bit so that the plaster won't go out the bottom. You can see that, got that down a little bit. Okay, now we're going to mix our plaster of Paris. So I'm going to set this aside. We're going to need a bowl and 1 1/3 cups of water. I'm going to put that in. And we're going to need 2 heaping cups of plaster of Paris. You can use whichever kind you want. I don't want this to make a mess, so I'm going to... So there's 1 cup. And I'm going to fluff it up because you really don't want it caked, actually. We can always add more if it's not the right consistency. Okay, we're going to mix this up. And it's pretty runny. Seems like it all wants to sit at the bottom. You might want to use a whisk. That might help it. All right, I'm going to put a little bit more in. This can be something really fun to go outside, and if you find a turkey track or a deer track, or maybe where your dog has made a paw print, find that print and make a paper collar around it, and then pour this in to the track and that, let it harden, and that can be pretty neat and fun to do. All right. So now we have our mold here with our print, and I'm going to take this spoon, probably should use a bigger spoon, and I'm going to just pour this in. Because this is so small, we won't need very much. And you could make this recipe in half or a quarter. Now we want it to be big enough, so I think that's a good amount. There's our fossil. And when it's all dry, you want to let it dry completely. Leave it for a couple of days, at least 1 day. And then you can take the collar off, and you can take the Play-Doh off of that, take them apart, and you will see the print of that, whatever you pushed into the Play-Doh. So there's our fossil. I don't know what I was thinking when I mixed up so much. You'll want to let it dry for about 30 minutes at least before you take it away from the mold. And then you want to let it air dry for about 24 hours. Make sure that you wash your hands and everything with warm soapy water. If you leave it in that bowl, you're going to have a big pile of hard, almost like rock, clay, something in your bowl. So maybe you want to use a bowl that you don't care about so much, but clean it up right away before it dries. Wash your tools. Now we get to look and find a story in the Bible, or several stories, that use rocks or stones, or that have rocks or stones in their story. Can you think of some Bible stories where rocks or stones or precious jewels were used? One way to find them is to use a concordance. You can use a big concordance like this that has every time the word stone is used in the Bible. You can look at this word stone in this and it will show you every time. Or you can look in the back of some Bibles and look for stone or stones or rock or gems or jewels, whichever word you're looking for. Look that word up and it will have a few there also. And there's all kinds of stories in the Bible that use those. Remember, we sang a song at the beginning about David, and he used some stones to fight Goliath. There's people who have set up a stone as a pillar of witness. That's in Joshua 24, sorry. Joshua 24. But there was also Genesis 35 had a pillar of stone. So there's all kinds of stories in the Bible. In Joshua 4, there were some stones that they took out of the river and they piled them all up and made a memorial stone. And think about the altars that they built. Those were made out of rocks, different size rocks. There's also another thing that's fun to do, and that's to look up in a Bible dictionary the word stone or rocks and find out different interesting things that archaeologists have found to help us learn about how those things were used in the Bible. And that's a fun thing to do too. So see what you can find and find a story about stones or rocks or jewels and go tell somebody that story. And then let me know who you told. Okay, we're going to do a fun experiment here and see how much we can fit in about, well, we're only going to go about to half high of this, of different kinds of rocks. Now, geologists have found that there's basically 3 different kinds of rocks. Some of them are small rocks like this sand. They're sedimentary. And there's some rocks that are bigger pieces that are very easy to break up and become sand. Then there's also the metamorphic rocks, which are, their heat and pressure has changed them. They're very hard. And then there's the igneous kind. They kind of look like this, with a lot of holes in them. They're made from lava or magma, anything from a volcano type thing. So there's different kinds of rocks, and sometimes you might think that they're hard and they're actually soft and the other way around. Well, we're going to do something fun with rocks. I don't want to break my jar, so I'm going to do this carefully. Put that big one in the bottom. And then we're going to put this other big one. And we'll do that. I think I'm going to stop there. Leave this other rock for something else. Now, I think we could fit some more rocks in there, don't you? Let's look at it. Turn it all the way around. It's not full, is it? Well, there's some smaller rocks here. Let's see what we can fit in. I need to try to find the hole. Oh, there it is. Let's see how many of these we can fit in there. Some of these rocks are trapped. All right, let's see if we can get them down underneath there. Pick that up a little bit. There we go. We've got some more rocks in there. But I still see some openings in there. I still see room. It's not totally full, even though you might think it is. So I'm going to take and put something smaller in there. Now this sand still has some bigger pieces in it, but we're going to try. Can you see what's happening? Is it going down, down, down? Yes, it's filling up some of those holes, isn't it? Maybe not all of them, but it's filling up some of them. Let's put some more sand in there. See, it's going down. There it is. Let's try this side. So we fit a whole lot more than just those 3 rocks, and we can keep tipping it. Look, it's still going down. Keep shaking it. It will find the little cracks in there. Our earth is sometimes, some parts of it are kind of made like this. Have you ever been to a cave and seen the stalactites and stalagmites? Those are neat. I've been to some, and they're really neat to see. And there's also places, especially out west in our country, where you can see rocks that have made big archways. Arches National Park in Utah is one. The Grand Canyon is a neat place too. There's all kinds of places where you can see rocks more clearly because they're not as covered with grass and trees and things like that. And you can see how God made them all different. And he made layers and different colors, and how the sand and the water has shaped them. And we can really enjoy those. Those are fun. We're going to make some crystals. When you find a rock that's actually got crystals inside of it, and the outside it might look really ordinary, very plain, but inside when you break it open, it's beautiful and full of all crystals. And God sees that in us. You know, sometimes we see people that just look really ugly, maybe. Maybe they're not very nice, but God sees something special, and he sees what they can be. He sees what you and I can be. We can be like crystals for Jesus. And we want to be working to be loving and sweet and kind and beautiful on the inside, just like a crystal is. Well, we're going to grow some crystals. There's lots of different ways that we can do that. We're going to use 2 different ways today with laundry bluing and ammonia, and then we're going to do one with borax also. So the first thing you want to do, we're going to do the one with laundry bluing. You would wet your rocks. Just get them wet. And just however many you want. I'm just going to do 3 here. You just need something for the crystals to grow on. Okay, so we have them wet. I'll wipe my hands here. And then the first thing we're going to do is we're going to pour over the crystals, over the rocks, a 1/4 cup of water. You want to do it in a glass bowl, better than doing it in a metal bowl. This is better. And then we're going to use some laundry bluing. That's what the laundry bluing looks like. We're going to put some of that in. I'll show you what it looks like. We're just going to pour. Can you see what that looks like? We're going to pour that right on over. Set that aside. And then you're going to hold your nose because you're going to be pouring in ammonia, and it's stinky. Again, a 1/4 cup. Each of these is a 1/4 cup, even parts. Oh, it's stinky. Pour it over there. And then we're going to sprinkle 4 tablespoons of salt over top. We want to do it evenly, and you'll notice that my salt isn't white. It's got minerals in there. It hasn't been bleached, and it still has all the other minerals that are in there that are good for us actually to eat. We have minerals in our body, and we need minerals to live. Salt is a mineral. So we're going to put this evenly all around. And then let's see. Oh, the food coloring, I forgot. We're going to put a little bit of food coloring on that. So I'll be right back.
Okay.
Okay, what color shall we do? I think we'll do red, since we've got that laundry bluing makes it look blue. So we're going to put some on a couple of the rocks. I'm just going to put a few drops there. And I think I might do some different colors. Let's make this a multi-color thing. Let's do some yellow on this rock. I think I got some off the rock. And how about if we do some green on the other rock? This will make this multicolor. Just drop. This will be fun. See what it does. And then you also want to put just a little bit more of that laundry bluing. I just put a little bit in my container here on the rock itself. Just drip a little bit on the rock. Hopefully we got that all in the right places. And then you're going to want to put it in a warm, dry place where it's not going to get jiggled. It needs to be very still. And you're going to watch it. And then the next day, or actually about 3 days, you're going to take 2 tablespoons, half of what we did before, 2 tablespoons, let's see what my directions say, 2 tablespoons of water and 2 tablespoons of ammonia. Mix that up and you're going to pour that in, but don't pour it on the rocks. And if you see crystals growing, don't pour it on the crystals. You might have to pour it around the edge or just some place where you see crystals aren't growing. And just very carefully pour it right there. And do that every few days while they grow. So we're going to set this aside and let it start growing. And we're going to do a different way of doing crystals. Let's put this up here. All right, that's not going to move. All right, so now we're going to do some crystals in a jar. And this one is a very easy kind of crystal to grow. It's using borax. And it's really fun because we can, well, I'll show you. We'll put some things in it. We're going to use 2 cups of water, and it needs to be hot water because the borax, the trick with the borax one is that it needs to dissolve really well, and it dissolves best in hot water. But be careful. Make sure you have your mom and dad help you because this water is very hot, and I wouldn't want you to get burned. We have very hot water there. That's 2 cups. And then we have half a cup of borax. I'll show you what that box looks like. This is what the box looks like that I got. And you want to be careful with this. Don't let your little brother or sister eat it. That would be very bad for them. You don't want to breathe it or eat it. Don't lick your fingers. It's not a nice thing to get inside of you. So we're going to pour our half a cup of borax in there. And then I'm going to use this, put a little bit. I didn't want to put it all of a sudden because I don't want to break my jar. And I'm going to start mixing a little bit with my wire whip. Okay, now I'm going to put the rest of it in. I think I can do it without making too big of a mess. It's very hot, and we want to make sure it is mixed very thoroughly. I'll wipe up my mess a little bit. The trick with this is getting it dissolved. And I can still see at the bottom, I can see a little bit of the flakes moving around. So I'm just going to make sure it's all well dissolved. Almost. I think that's pretty good. Might not be perfect, but I think it's pretty good. Now that we have our solution ready, what do we want to grow crystals on? Because crystals need something to grow on. Something that can be very fun to do is to take a pipe cleaner and make a shape out of it. You could do, let's see, I think I might try doing a heart with this one. Let's see if I can make a heart. What do you think? Not too bad. So I'm going to do that shape in there too, and I'll show you how I'm going to do that. And then, you know, I could do my name. Let's see, how am I going to make a K? I might have to use a straight one. I don't want it that big though. I want a littler letter. And I'm going to wrap this around. See if you can make your name with a pipe cleaner. Or your letter. Okay, that's a funny looking K, but I think it will work. It'll be kind of fun. And let's see, what else can we do? Oh, something fun to put in is a flower. You could stick a flower in there and grow crystals on the flower. We're going to do that. I'll do that in another jar and let you see what happens with that one. And I found an old wind chime. That would be something fun to put in there. I think these pieces all were hanging from that wind chime. So I might hang this in there and let the crystals grow on that and see what that looks like. So here's how we do it. This one actually has a string hanging on it. We don't want them to touch the side. Even with the rocks and the other, you want it in the middle. You don't want it touching the side. If it does, it's not a big deal, but it works better if it's not. And if for some reason, you know, the crystals touch the side and you want them off, or if you're done with your experiment and you want to undo what you did, all you have to do is just pour some warm water on the crystals and it'll dissolve right away, kind of like salt dissolves in water. So I'm just tying a knot with that string on this stick, and I'm going to put it in there, and it's trying to touch the side. Well, we'll see what happens on that. And where's my heart? Here it is. So what I'm going to do is use this as a string to hold that heart, to dangle it down into the water. And I'm just going to wrap this around there. You can use colored pipe cleaners. I just only had black for some reason. And it doesn't have to be completely down in, because the crystals will kind of like crawl up there. And I'll hang this one down in there too. Figure that one out. So this one should, by tomorrow morning, it should have some crystals starting to grow, but definitely by tomorrow night. It's evening right now, so 24 hours for sure we should start seeing some crystals grow. And you could do a whole bunch of them because they don't always work right. You can't guarantee that the experiment will work perfectly. So if you do several of them, then you should get something that's pretty nice out of it. So that's our crystal experiment. Now let's do something different. Can you see how shiny it is? People often looked at that and they thought, oh, they'd found gold. And that's called fool's gold because it's actually pyrite. It is not worth anything. One of our requirements is to make a collection of rocks and to learn how to label them, how to identify them and label them and display them. Now there's lots of different ways that people can do that. You saw my collection of rocks is just loose in a jar. But if you want to label and identify them, then you need to do a little bit more. I'm going to show you a couple of sets of rocks that are kind of fun to use for learning about rocks and minerals and for learning how to identify them too. This one is from the National Geographic, and this one is a Dan and Darcy one called Mega Rock Fossil and Mineral Collection and Activity Kit. They're fairly similar, have about the same amount of rocks. Let's see, this one says it has 250 specimens. They're all real, they're not fake. And this one has over 200, and there are fossils in both of them also. Now, in the Dan and Darcy one of the things that I liked about that one is that it has this mat, this identification mat. And it's really big. This is only one little part of it. I'm going to try to spread it out here. Boy, you can see it's really a big mat. And it shows, you can't even see me. If I can put this down in front here. It shows all the different kinds of rocks and minerals and fossils that are in the kit. And it tells about them and helps you learn how to identify them. There's pictures of them. And it has pictures of them polished and raw, unpolished, both. So that's a pretty neat way to do it and learn about it. I found it really interesting. We're going to get that out of our way here. Now, I've already taken all the rocks out of here and divided it up to give to the kids in my adventurer club. So there aren't any rocks in here anymore, but I'm going to show you what else it has and what it came with it. This card, kind of an explanation card. And then there were bags of rocks. This had several different kinds of fossils in it in this nice protective case. There is a bag of different, it says my favorites on it. So you could sort things out and put them in these bags. And then there were these bags. Some were polished, some were raw. It's a nice way to keep them. So that's what that kit looks like. Set that one down. Now this one still has the rocks in it. And this is how its identification is on a card like this. And also it has a book. And this book has different information sheets inside, kind of like what was on the mat on the other one. I'm holding that right. So you can look in the book at the different kinds of things that are in the kit. Both of them had magnifying glasses in them. Here's where the fossils were kept in this one, and there's some, let's see, there's still some in here. I didn't take them all out. There is one. Let's see, that's one. I think this was the brachiopod. Then there's also the shark's tooth. Kind of fuzzy and blends in, but there's how that is stored in this kit. It has a little bag too. And then there's polished rocks, big ones, little ones. These are, I think these look like kind of raw ones and some fossils. And then here's some big ones. So it has a wide variety. They're very good ones to practice doing your identification. Now, what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how another way to collect and store these rocks. Move this out of the way. After you've identified them using the different materials that are in the kit or looking online, maybe you have a rock you found in your backyard and you can look online, do Google searches, and you can find some things there. So here's some rocks that came in that kit. And for one method of collecting, you could get one of these cases. I got this one at Dollar Tree, very inexpensive. This would be for a very small collection. You can also find cases like this at places like Walmart in the jewelry section, craft stores. They're also where people have, where you would find embroidery floss. You can find them in the sporting goods section for fishing lures. So there's cases, this type of case in a lot of different places, different shapes and sizes. And they all have these little holes, and you can put the rocks in them, one in each. And what you can do for your identification is just get a piece of paper, just a plain piece of paper, and cut a little strip off of it. It doesn't have to be very big. And you can write the name of it right on there. Now this one, I already know this is a snowflake obsidian. It looks like snowflakes fell on a really pretty black rock. So that's kind of a neat one. There's two of them here. So I'm going to write snowflake, obsidian. And if you're wondering how to spell it, again, you can look online or you can look in the answer key in here. So this is one way that you can identify your rocks and store them in a way where you can look at all sides of the rock. So I'll just put this in one of those holes. You can see I just put the paper in there. And then I'm going to put the two snowflake obsidians in that spot. And that's a nice way to keep a collection, and you can still take it out and look at all sides of it. You just want to make sure that it gets put right back in the right place. Another way that you can do it is you can cut a little tiny piece of paper, and you can write a number 1 on it. And then you can take the Mod Podge, kind of glue stuff, and you can glue. You put some of the Mod Podge glue on the rock, then you put the paper on, and then you put more Mod Podge on top, and then you let it dry. And then it's numbered. And then up here you could put a piece of paper and you could write number 1 is snowflake obsidian. And then you would have kind of it's like a key, it's called, that would help you figure out which is which. Now another way that's really nice also is to use something like this. It's an art piece type thing. You could paint it or stain it, and then what you could do is you could glue your rock right on that board. Glue it on the top. It's going to slide down to the bottom. You could glue it, and right next to it, I'm going to get a picture the other direction for you. So you would put the rock there, and then right next to it you would glue the name of what that rock was. And you could just have a whole row of rocks down, all the way down here. Do a whole row. There's some really pretty rocks here. And then there's a blue one, kind of teal. There's another white one. You could do another row like this and have those names over here. That would be kind of neat. And this wood piece cost maybe $4.50, something like that. Very inexpensive at Walmart. And you can find them at craft stores too. So that's how you would do a collection, and how you would identify and mark them so that they're identified and, and kept that way. Now, one of our requirements is to paint a rock, or we can put a saying on it. First thing we're going to do is put a saying on one. Mod Podge a Bible verse, actually. What we did was we went and got a bunch of rocks from the beach. Hopefully you have something nearby where you can get that. Sometimes at hardware stores you can find some smooth rocks. This one was pretty big. But maybe you can find some more like this size. Find a collection of smooth rocks because they work best for painting and especially for Mod Podging. So the first one we're going to do is the Mod Podge, and I'm just going to put some of it on my rock. Whoa, we've got plenty on there. There's my brush. Wasn't coming out, and then it did. All right, I think hopefully that's not too much. All right. And then I just picked up a bunch of stickers. You could actually print out something or even handwrite something and cut it out. But I found some stickers at the dollar store, so they were fairly cheap. Some have some pretty flowers. There's some Bible verses, some hearts there. That would be nice too. I'm going to use this one that says Isaiah 41:10. Fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. That's a very special Bible verse. And I guess I've got one already peeled up over here. Somebody might be needing some encouragement, so this could be a very nice Bible verse to give them. So I'm going to put that on there. And then I'm going to rub over it with my brush. It's going to look all messy and ucky, but it does work. All right, so I'm going to go smooth though, because I got way too much of that. I'm going to take some of that off. That is poking up. So we need a little more glue there to help hold that down so it doesn't come up. There, that's pretty good. And then just let it dry, and you could give it to somebody, or you could maybe leave it somewhere if you're out on a walk somewhere. Leave it sitting under a bench, maybe in a park or something, for somebody to find that, and you never know, they might be needing some encouragement that day, and it could be something special for them to find. So that's our Mod Podge rock. So I'm going to set that on a plate here to dry. Now we're going to paint a rock, but before we do that, I want to show you something. I found this at the Dollar Tree. It was after Christmas, and they started putting out Valentine things. So it's a heart-shaped rock. I think somebody actually kind of made this, or maybe they cut them. I don't know. It's flat on the bottom. It's a kit that comes with a little paintbrush and some paints, and it's got some pretty flowers and little design on there that you could paint. So that's an idea you might want to check out. But we're just going to do our own design. I'm thinking that next summer, when I have my garden, that it might be nice to have rocks when I plant my seeds. I don't always know what I've planted in that row. I have to identify it some way. I might forget, oh, that row has beans or whatever. So I'm going to paint something on here that I can put in my garden, and that I'll know until the seeds come up and start to grow what I planted there. I'm thinking with this shape of a rock, I'm kind of thinking I might make a watermelon, paint a watermelon on it. So I've got a couple of colors here. I've got a dark green and a light green, and we're going to just play around with it and see what we can come up with. And you can do maybe a butterfly. You could paint a flower on it. You could paint maybe a sunflower would be something nice on it. Or you could even write somebody's name with paint. You could do a plant, a leaf. You could do, oh, I don't know, make an animal on it. So I'm going to put some of this paint on my, whoa, I think I got too much of that. I'm really good at getting too much paint. All right, so I am going to just paint my whole rock with this lighter paint. I think I needed a bigger brush, but this will work. painting rocks can be fun, and it can be fun to try to figure out what the rock might look like and maybe paint it to match what it seems to look like. All right, so I'm going to do that. And then see if I can rub off some of that. I'm not worried about mixing colors too much. But we need to have, the watermelon needs to have some stripes of this darker stuff. So I'm going to take the darker one and I'm going to make some kind of jiggly stripes through there. Let's see if I can do, they're kind of coming out, aren't they? Maybe we'll at least get the idea. I think I'm going to put some of this around the outer edge. So what are you going to make? Be thinking. It is fun to be creative. Doing multiple coats like this, you could wait till the first one dries and then do the stripes. That would work too. So there's my funny watermelon rock. You could do a honeybee maybe. That would be fun. All right, you have fun doing rocks too. Thank you for coming today. I hope you had fun learning about rocks and minerals and what a geologist does. I know I did. I think I want to go look at some more rocks and figure some more out and what kinds they are. Before we go, I want to read to you one more Bible verse in 1 Peter chapter 2 and verse 5. There's something about stones, and it has to do with each of us, you and me. Says, you also, as living stones, are being built up a spiritual house. That's just the first part of the verse. And then I want to read verse 9. But you are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, his own special people, that you may proclaim the praises of him who called you out of darkness into his marvelous light. When you build something with a foundation of stones, it takes more than just one stone. And God wants us to be those stones, to build up his spiritual house, to help other people learn about him, and to make the body of Christ, is the phrase that we call it, to make his church, his group of chosen people, bigger each day and special. He loves us so much, and he wants us to share that with others. So thank you for coming. Check the link below for the requirements for the Geologist Award, and we'll see you next time. Bye.